Good evening. Welcome to the Science Cafe. This is number 127. I'm Paul Adams. I'm Dean of the College of Education and work with the Science Math Education Institute, which sponsors these free public presentations of research and work that's going on at Fort Hays or just in our community of things that are very interesting to folks. And this will finish out our season for the 2022-23 school years. There you go. And for those that have been with us a while, we started with asteroids being hit with a satellite with a DART mission to Hell's Aquarium to fish and birds and racehorses. That was something there. That's it. And 360 video. But we're going to finish up tonight with something moving back towards some of the technology side that is very interesting, and that is the Victory Bot Goes to School. And we have Dr. Jerry Brooks is with us tonight because she uses this, and I won't steal any of her thunder. I'll let her take it over from there. And I know her assistant is not Paul Adams, it is Eric Adams, but you can explain why he's not here tonight to help you. So let's give Jerry a applause and turn it over to her.
Thank you.
Okay. You go ahead.
All right. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. I'm really nervous about this because the last time I tried to do a presentation with Victor, I shall say he was kind of like a typical man, and he sat and did nothing. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I've tried him out tonight a little bit already, and so he's working so far. Anyway, there are three of us, and this is not wanting to work. Okay, so technology is not working here. There we go. Yep, I just had to get the right thing going. So my co-presenter that you cannot see that's not here tonight, is this not working?
It is, so everyone.
Okay, so the technology that's not working here really well tonight, anyway. But Eric couldn't be here. He's a senior. He's a music performance major. He's amazing. He is the voice behind Victor when he's singing, and it just, to have a voice like that is like nothing other. Anyway, but his senior recital is tomorrow night, and he tried to use the excuse of, I have dress rehearsal tonight, so, he couldn't make it. But anyway, I'm really excited. It's fun to work with Eric. He is so bright and so delightful to work with. We haven't got to work together very many times. We've met in face twice, I think. We've done a lot of texting back and forth. He's had Victor at their house. I've had Victor at my house. There's a virtual robot that goes with the program. And when you try to do the two together, it doesn't always mesh real well. So he's had a lot of patience, and I really appreciated all of his help. So I bought this high-dollar pin pointer, and I got a new battery, and it's not working. So I'm stuck here. Anyway, so my other co-presenter is Victor, and I don't know if you can see him very well, but right now he's sitting on the floor, and he's going to stay on the floor simply because he's too expensive to take a chance of falling off the table. But I will pick him up, and I'll move him out to the center a little further so everybody can see him when we get ready to do that stuff. Anyway, we purchased, I shouldn't say we, College of Education purchased Victor in the spring of 22 from SoftBank Robotics. He came to us, and the first time I started using him on a Zoom call with a programmer from California, Victor was working, and he had his arms going like this and flopping around, and pretty soon he said, oh, my shoulder, it's hot, it hurts, turn me off. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so the programmer said, shut him down, you need to send him in to be fixed. So we sent him to California, and he had an extended stay. He got to be there for 8 weeks at least. The programmer that was going to work on him was on maternity leave. And so they just let him sit on the shelf until they came back from maternity leave. Anyway, so we finally got him back in the fall. And we had a contest to name him in the College of Education, and he is named after Victory Tiger. So, I thought it was going to be something like I don't know. But anyway, nobody liked my ideas. Victor Tiger, SWAT 1. So I'm the third part of the presentation. This is my 5th year at Fort Hays. I have worked with students with autism in the public schools, and it wasn't such a big deal as it is now, but the more we learn about autism, the bigger the deal is, and the more we're learning to do and to help and to make things better. When I first came to Hays, I didn't know about having to publish and do research. It was kind of a foreign concept to me. And so when they said you have to have a research agenda, I went, really? What's that? And I said, well, I really want to do something with autism. And Jackie Lubin was here still, and she was really interested in working on research for autism with post-secondary students. But my heart is still with the students in the P-12 buildings. I still care about the little kids, and that's where my heart is. And so Victor fits in with them so well. So that's part of why we had Victor. Anyway, Dr. Lubin started this badge program, a 4-course sequence. She created the first course, and it's wonderful, and then she left. And I'm not an expert in autism. I don't know that, there are lots of people that know lots of things about it. Excuse me. So creating the courses has taken me more time than it might have somebody else. There's one course left to create, the practicum course, and we'll get it done next year. So just a little bit of background. Dr. Adams sent me an email with a research project on it one time, or research article, and it was about a woman that was using the Now robots, and it's N-A-O, it's pronounced Now. She was using the Now robots with students with autism. And he said, what do you think? And I said, oh my gosh, that would be wonderful. I would love to have something like that. He said, we have one. I went, oh, we do? I was so excited. And so he connected me with Gigi, and I went to Makerspace and made some appointments with Gigi, and I felt so sorry for the man. And you guys, you have to just appreciate him, the patience that he showed me. Because I didn't know diddly about anything about programming a robot or how to turn them on or connecting to the internet. And Gigi, time after time I'd go over there and I'd say, I can't get it to do this, I can't get it to do that. And he would sit down and he'd work with me and make it work. So it was wonderful. Excuse me, it was wonderful to have Gigi. So I got to learn to use Sheldon. And I took Sheldon to school for about 3 months. And then Sheldon died. And it was a very sad day. His speakers broke, and I called the company, and we said, Sheldon's dead, and they were going, what? Well, he quit. But anyway, Dr. Adams was able to, thank you. Dr. Adams was able to find enough money so that we could replace him with Victor. So the whole purpose of having Victor is to use him, excuse me, I'm having allergies is what's the problem. Excuse me, so the whole purpose for Victor is to use him with students with autism spectrum disorder, or at least that's what I want to do with him. He can do lots of other things, but that's my main goal with him. And so I don't know how much you know about autism, but it's a huge umbrella term that they use because it's a spectrum there's a wide range of abilities within that spectrum. In the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, they've lumped in 4 of the different diagnoses. They put in autism disorder, they put in the childhood disintegrative disorder, persuasive developmental disorder, not otherwise specified. And I was seeing those labels on students in the schools. Like I would see POD, NOS. I didn't have a clue what it meant. I didn't know it was connected to autism at all and to the spectrum. And that label only goes up till about 8 years old. Then they have to come up with a different label. They have to diagnose the student with something else. And then there's the developmental disabilities label. And the thing about autism is there is no part of autism that's tied to intelligence, which I think is the most important thing that we need to think about. Because there are some of the people that I've read their research are they self-identify. They are autistic. They tell you that they are. And some of the PhDs that I've listened to and some of the podcasts and the conferences I've gone to, they are absolutely amazing. So intelligence isn't tied to autism in any way, shape, or form. So what do we know about autism? We know that they have communication problems, not comfortable for them. It's not that they don't want to communicate, it's that they're just not real comfortable doing it. We know that they have repetitive behaviors. How many of you guys have watched Big Bang Theory and Sheldon? And you know he always knocks on the door 3 times, and is it whatever her name is, it's consistent. It's those kinds of behaviors are the things that we see with people with autism. They learn differently, but they learn. They play differently, but they still play. They socialize differently, but they still want socialization. It's just harder for them to do, and it's less comfortable for them sometimes. So how do you diagnose autism? It would be nice if there was one test, medical test that you could give kids or adults to say, yep, they have autism, but it's not. It's mostly done through observations. And there are, 2 main big assessments that they do, but, it's a comprehensive evaluation with observations. And then there's some common symptoms. And when you've worked with kids with autism, you can start picking out, you see those symptoms in kids. Like one of those that says literal. If you said it's raining cats and dogs, they would expect cats and dogs to be falling from the sky. They're very, very literal. They don't interpret people's facial expressions as far as feelings very well. Sometimes they have trouble showing empathy for other people. They don't feel comfortable doing that. They're very sensitive to sound and light stimulation. So some of the students, when we had fire drills at school, if I didn't forewarn my students that we were going to have a fire drill, it really triggered some hard situations for them. So if they knew it was coming, we could put in earplugs so it wasn't so loud. So, the disco balls at the dances, or in the gym when we would have pep assemblies. If the band got to playing too loud and kids were clapping and laughing, carrying on too loud, we would leave because they just couldn't handle the overstimulation. And I was looking at some of the college programs that some of the colleges have. They have special dormitories for people who have been identified with autism, because that way everybody has their own room, their own space, and they can control the amount of noise within the room. So they put an extra soundproofing. So there's lots of things we can do to help them. Whoops. Okay. Am I going the right way? No. Okay. So there's no known cause for autism. There's lots of speculation. There are risk factors, like if they have a sibling that has autism, that may be a signal that there could be another child with autism in the family. There's no specific genetic markers so far that they've identified. Sometimes complications at birth may have triggered it or may cause it. Sometimes older parents. We're seeing more students who are identified with autism that are born to older parents. When I started at Hayes 5 years ago and we started doing the research on autism, the identification rate was 1 in 88 children. About 3 weeks ago, the Autism Speaks website updated it to 1 in 36. So the identification has just jumped tremendously. And at first, when they started identifying kids, if you looked at a geographic map, the places where people were being identified were around college towns or big medical centers. And that's because that's where the people were who knew how to do the diagnosis, not necessarily where the people were who were being diagnosed. So now it's way spread out. And interestingly enough, a lot of, probably the highest identification rate is in India right now. And I don't know, I haven't figured out why. Okay, so there's some definite myths about autism. For a while there was the big, it's caused by the MMR vaccine. Well, it's not. There's research study after research study that shows that it's not. But I think what triggered some of that is a lot of times the formal diagnosis was coming about that same age or same time span when kids were getting the MMR vaccines or shortly thereafter. And so that's when those tests were, the observation tests, they said were effective and accurate. So I think that was part of the connection. I read something that said that people with autism have special talents. 28% of people with autism have special talents. That's about the same as the general population, so that doesn't hold. They have learning difficulties? No. There are people who have PhDs who are autistic. That doesn't count either. Antisocial? They're not antisocial. They want to have friends just the same as you and I do, but they're not as comfortable making those friendships and in social interactions. So it's finding how they can be comfortable with the social part of it. Autism cannot be cured, but you hear about lots of things with kids in special education in schools. It's like, well, if you catch them early, you'll cure it. Well, you don't cure it, but you make them so that they can cope with and flourish in spite of it. It's not something that you outgrow. And then I saw some things that said only boys have autism. Well, the men get the rap on this on most disabilities. The identification rate is 4-to-1, boys to girls with autism. And for the longest time, they thought it was because it was carried through the mother's genes, but now they're beginning to think that it may be actually from the father. So there's no connection. Anyway. Oh, and the last one I love. I think every person in here could be autistic because of bad parenting, because I think on any given day, any one of us is a bad parent. So those were myths, just kind of, So anyway, so why robots? Why Victor? Well, they're cute for one thing. I mean, I have my granddaughter's rocking chair that I made that sits on a placemat, so it's a little tiny thing. And Victor sits on it in my house, in my office. And I talk to him all day long because there's nobody else in my house and my husband's at work. So it's almost like they have a personality. So they're small, so they're kid size. When I had Sheldon at my house, my granddaughters were there, and I could not keep them from hugging him all the time when he was trying to do some stuff. So they don't, when you get to see Victor up close pretty soon, you can see they kind of have a cute face. I mean, they're not ugly, but they don't, they don't smile. They don't do those kinds of things. But kids just are really drawn to them. For autistic kids, they think part of the reason they react to robots so well is because there's no disapproval nor approval from the parent or whoever's working with them. Because even though you try to not show disapproval if you're working with the child, if they say something wrong, they can read it in your body language or your face. Robots don't do that. And also they're predictable. Robots are very simple in their responses to whatever is happening. It's what they're programmed to do, and the programming is fairly simple. So the predictability of what they're going to, the interaction, makes them feel comfortable. One of the things is because of that, they think that we can use them to build on social emotional learning, because if we can start them with a robot, then we can generalize those skills to people. So the next thing I'm going to show you is, this is what a program for Victor looks like. I actually copied this out of a research journal, and this one, it's a drag and drop system, but this one actually has timers in it so that they were timing like response rates, and because it had voice recognition in it. But you can see that's kind of complicated, or at least considering I am not a computer programmer. Thank God that Eric is willing to do that kind of stuff. So I'm going to show you some of our programs in a little bit. Okay, so what are we going to do with Victor in schools? Because that's the main purpose, is to get him with students who are autistic and to get him working. So right now, Victor can say the Pledge of Allegiance. And he cannot hold his hand up because I haven't figured out how to do that yet. He'll go, oh, you'll see. Anyway, he can sing the ABC song that is Eric's voice, and it's fantastic. and Eric is working on head, shoulders, knees, and toes for me because I think that's so it's all that imitating and mimicry because that's what helps kids learn. You know, when we're working with little tiny children, we try to get them to do the sing-song nursery rhymes, repeat them back with us. Well, that's what you start with kids who are autistic, is to get them involved so that they're actually doing something with you. So anyway, I'm trying to do yoga with him because I know that they can. The other day, I had him in a pose that I thought was pretty decent, and he fell over and he said, "Oh, I need to practice that one again." So he's got artificial intelligence built in. He was standing like he is now, which I'm going to turn him on here. He was standing, and I just reached over and picked him up, just not even thinking. And he said, "Ouch, that hurts." I mean, so he has intelligence there that's built into his system. So now, it takes him about 3 minutes to warm up. So I'm going to show you what he can do. Let me find my mouse here. If I turn off the microphone, can I stand over there and talk, and can you hear me? No? Yes? Yes. Okay. And tell me how to turn off the microphone. Okay, can you still hear me? I have a teacher voice. I can yell. I did it for years. Anyway, okay, so you can see this really simple little, compared to that big thing that we saw a while ago, this is the little simple one. And I'm waiting for Sheldon to wake, or for Victor to wake up. He's thinking. And they're supposed to be able to connect to a modem or a router. See, I'm real techie here. I don't know which one it is. Okay, but when I connect him to that, he keeps dropping that connection. And when I talked to the tech guy in California, he said that's one of the problems with him. So to make him work tonight, I'm going to leave him tethered. You know, how many of you guys had kids and had to carry diaper bags around? So, how far can we go? We can go about this far. So Victor's case, and Victor, and the computer, and all the cords probably weigh 40 pounds. It is the reason I go exercise, so I can lift it in and out of my car. Anyway, we'll see if we can get him to do the flag salute. Doesn't he have a cute voice? Okay, pardon? Okay, so the next one he's going to do, he gets to flopping around a little bit because the programmer didn't exactly know what she was doing. And okay, I am impressed with my ability here. Okay, first of all, I downloaded illegally onto a Fort Hays computer the Star Wars song. Because Paul made a comment one time that he really thought it was cool that Sheldon could do Star Wars. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do Star Wars. So this is Victor doing Star Wars. Oh, it's going to be really loud.
May the force be with you. Thank you.
That's Star Wars. Okay, I've got one more. Okay, this is the alphabet song, and Eric did it in Python's coding, and I worked with him on campus, and it worked great, and I took him home, and I could not make it work, and I was determined to not let Eric's voice go to waste for that, and so I figured out how to do it, but it's not in Python. But anyway.
Sing with me.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Now I know my ABCs. Next time I'll choose me.
And he blows kisses. Okay, I know that doesn't look like a lot, but that is 3 days and some semester time of working with, trying to get the programming done. It's fun. It's challenged my brain. I know I challenged Gigi trying to get him to help me with Sheldon. But I really appreciate all that Dr. Adams has done to help make this work. Thank you. See how he's got the, he looks at people, he looks at the sounds, he looks for sounds. It's pretty cool. So do you have questions?
Can you share some of what you've seen in class?